Hi, I'm a sand recap and this is an animation to get. Luca.
A human and a sea monster resembling a human form an unlikely but enduring friendship on the Italian Riviera.
Wow!
The film begins with two fishermen riding their boat into the nighttime water in Italy.
A sea monster then steals their record player from under the water.
The creature manages to escape their net and leaps out over the boat before disappearing from view of the men.
Luca Paguro is a young sea monster who lives with his grandparents and parents, Daniela and Lorenzo.
He has to catch some fish while running away from a boat that is above the water.
Grandma even encourages Luca's curiosity, despite his parents' warnings to stay away from the surface. Luca finds the record player from earlier. A person wearing a diving suit approaches Luca. As he approaches it, he hides in a cave, thinking it's a human.
The other sea monster from earlier, 𝐆𝐞𝐧𝐫𝐞 Scorfano, a boy around Luca's age, is revealed when the figure takes off their helmet.
When Luca is lifted out of the water, he transforms into a human boy as he watches 𝐆𝐵𝐴𝐴 ascend to the surface.
He is initially terrified, but once he learns how to use his new legs, he quickly joins 𝐆𝐵𝐴𝐴 on the land.
𝐆𝐵𝐴𝐴 takes Luca to his hideout, where he keeps the various human relics he has gathered. Both boys are impressed by a Vespa advertisement that Luca sees. After that, until he has to go home, he spends the following 2 hours assisting 𝐆𝐵𝐴𝐴 in the construction of a fictitious Vespa.
Luca joins 𝐆𝐵𝐴𝐴 on the surface over the next few days, but when he comes home late and they don't see him tending to the sheepfish, his parents become suspicious. The boys attempt to perform a jump on their Vespa, but it keeps breaking apart until they create a stronger version.
𝐆𝐵𝐴𝐴 tells Luca that he has a Bruno, a voice in his head, and that he must overcome his fear by yelling "Silenzio Bruno"
when he continues to show signs of fear and hesitation. Unfortunately, when Luca returns home, Daniela and Lorenzo reveal that they are aware that he has been surfacing, and they plan to send him away for the remainder of the summer with his frail uncle 𝐒𝐲𝐬𝐬.
Luca informs 𝐆𝐵𝐴𝐴 of their predicament, and he suggests that they flee to the nearby town of Portorosso to acquire a Vespa and become free there. In their human forms, the boys manage to enter the city and discover other humans in the plaza. Luca kicks a ball at some children who are playing, but the ball bounces and hits a Vespa owned by 𝐒𝐲𝐧𝐫𝐞, a local bully. 𝐒𝐲𝐧𝐫𝐞 goes to annoy Luca and 𝐆𝐵𝐴𝐴 with the help of his aides, 𝐒𝐲𝐬𝐬 and Guido. He tries to drag Luca into the fountain, almost showing his scales, but a girl named Giulia Marcovaldo saves the boys.
Giulia mentions that she despises 𝐒𝐿𝐲𝐬𝐬 because he always picks on everyone and mocks her for losing a local triathlon, the Portorosso Cup, the year before because she got sick. Luca and 𝐆𝐵𝐴𝐴 briefly follow Giulia as she talks about this. Luca tells 𝐆𝐵𝐴𝐴 that they can use the money to purchase a Vespa and achieve their goal after learning that the grand prize is money.
Luca persuades Giulia to allow him and 𝐆𝐵𝐴𝐴 to form a team, despite her telling them that she races alone.
She returns the boys to her residence, where she lives with her one-armed sea monster hunter father, Massimo. While he gives the boys their favorite pasta, the boys try to hide their sea monster forms from him.
Their cat Machiavelli is less friendly to the boys and has repeatedly attacked Luca. Luca and 𝐆𝐵𝐴𝐴 join Massimo on the water fishing the following morning, attempting to conceal their underwater forms. After that, they go with Giulia to register for the race, where 𝐒𝐿𝐲𝐬𝐬 taunts them. 𝐒𝐿𝐲𝐬𝐬's pride is shaken when Luca compares him to a catfish, and he decides to let the boys participate in the competition so that he can smear them in the face if he wins. The youngsters then prepare for the 3 primary sections of the race: swimming a lap, eating pasta in a bowl, and then finishing with a bike ride. 𝐆𝐵𝐴𝐴 needs to eat a lot of pasta to get ready, and Giulia does the swimming while Luca does bike riding. When Daniela and Lorenzo discover that Luca has vanished, they transform into humans and travel to the surface world to seek their son out. They make the kids in the plaza fall into the fountain and discover that none of them are Luca because they have never seen his human form before. Luca shares Giulia's sentiment that she feels like an outsider because everyone thinks she's weird when they talk at night. She also tells him about the sky stars, which 𝐆𝐵𝐴𝐴 had previously explained to him were fish. Luca is amazed when she takes him to a neighbor's telescope to get a closer look. However, 𝐆𝐵𝐴𝐴 begins to feel envious when he observes that Luca is spending more time with Giulia. Luca is intrigued when Giulia tells him about the school she goes to in Genova when she stays with her mother. Nevertheless, 𝐆𝐵𝐴𝐴 informs Luca that other children would not accept them for who they are. 𝐒𝐿𝐲𝐬𝐬 and his aides then discover the boys because he has become suspicious of them. Before declaring that he wants them to leave town,
he threatens them and even punches Alberto in the stomach.
Alberto takes Luca with him when the kids try to practice riding a bike through the town in retaliation for Giulia.
This causes them to careen through the streets out of control until they ride the bike off a ledge into the ocean. Giulia discovers the boys once they turn human again after they argue. Alberto decides to reveal his true identity to Giulia after Luca tells her he wants to go to school with her in Genova.
Sadly, Alberto is attacked by 𝐒𝐲𝐬𝐬 and his gang, who throw harpoons at him. Alberto unfortunately flees after Luca conceals his identity and calls him a sea monster. Luca returns to Giulia's house, but when he refuses to explain things, she splashes him with water and discovers that he is also a sea monster. Since Porto Rosso is a fish hunting town, she is not horrified, but rather concerned that others might harm him. After that, Luca heads out to look for Alberto in his den. There, Alberto reveals that he has been living on his own ever since his father left and never returned. Even though Alberto tells Luca to leave, Luca still wants to finish the race for their friendship's sake. The Porto Rosso Cup day arrives. Giulia enters the competition on her own, but Luca also participates. 𝐒𝐲𝐬𝐬 tries to get 𝐒𝐲𝐬𝐬 to go faster by dumping olive oil on him, but it only attracts fish that bite 𝐒𝐲𝐬𝐬, so he wears Alberto's diving suit for the swimming portion. 𝐒𝐲𝐬𝐬 stuffs the pasta in Guido's face to get him to finish while the others make it to the pasta portion, Giulia and Luca gaining momentum. It begins to rain as the bike portion begins. Luca is too far away to risk revealing himself, so Alberto quickly comes running toward him with an umbrella. Alberto is knocked to the ground by 𝐒𝐲𝐬𝐬, who shows everyone his sea monster form. Luca rides his bike and also reveals his true form to save his friend as they begin their pursuit of Alberto. After that, they sped down the hill as 𝐒𝐲𝐬𝐬 purposefully tried to kill the boys with a harpoon. To save her friends, Giulia crashes her bike into his, causing her to fall hard down the hill. The boys finish the race, but they run back to assist Giulia in getting up. The boys are then surrounded by the locals until Massimo stands up for them and declares that they won because their bike made it over the finish line. 𝐒𝐲𝐬𝐬 and Guido have had enough of 𝐒𝐲𝐬𝐬's behavior, so they toss him into the fountain despite his protests and orders to act. As they embrace Luca, Daniela, Lorenzo, and Grandma all appear in their sea monster forms. The film also shows two elderly women who reveal that they are sea monsters. At Giulia's house, everyone celebrates, and the boys purchase a used, cheap Vespa. Daniela and Lorenzo wonder if they have been too pushy with Luca's curiosity and wonder if he might join Giulia at school. Luca is smart enough to know who to trust, according to Grandma, even though not everyone will accept him. As Giulia prepares to depart for Genova, Luca and Alberto make their way to the train station. After that, Alberto informs Luca that he sold the Vespa so that he could purchase a train ticket for Luca so that he could attend Giulia's school with her. Daniela and Lorenzo come out to say that they discussed it with Giulia's parents in order to allow Luca to stay with Giulia and her mother. Alberto tells Luca that he will stay with Massimo and assist him with work in exchange for a place to stay, despite Luca's desire for Alberto to leave. The two boys give each other hugs as they say their goodbyes, and Luca, dressed as a sea monster and standing outside the train, bids his family goodbye.